Who Am I is all about values, adding values to each other. That's how we believe we build each other, bringing values to the community so that people start to be aware that they also have their own values to share. I want everybody to be able to one day share their values. And I always bring very valuable people to set the example. I was thinking this week about values and started thinking about communication. And being a good communicator is one of the biggest tools a person can carry in order to open any door, right? And being a writer is a huge part in communication. For some reason, people tend to believe that being an author may seem something very unlikely to happen. But I believe it's something very likely to happen if you just make a decision. That may be the only factor involved between you and being an author, the only thing that gets between. But it becomes really easy when we have someone who can mentor us and walk us through, right? For that reason, I brought the best source I was able to find to tell us all about this myth, how to break that myth. Today, we have the honor to sit with Lil Barkowski. Lil is a writer, a ghostwriter, publisher, blogger, and an excellent communicator, by the way. Lil, how you doing today? How you feeling?
Hi, I'm awesome. I'm glad to be here with you.
I'm going to start by asking you a little bit about you, to know you, your background, where you come from. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Amelia, we just talked about this earlier. You're in Bayonne, New Jersey. I'm a Jersey kid. I actually grew up and went to Jersey City State College for a year during my some struggles I had, family struggles. I'm NYU a person actually. Grew up right outside of Manhattan. So moved to Florida eventually because I just got sick of being cold. Been
Mhm.
writing off and on since high school. I always tell a funny story. I had a friend who was had to write keep a diary all through our senior year, and she didn't bother. And she got to the end of the year and realized she had nothing. And fortunately for her, I used to keep those marble notebooks, remember the old note, and I would write by hand. I would every entry I put me instead of my name, and I
Mhm.
handed a couple of them. I said, "Here, go. Just don't fail." And the teacher told her this was calling. Like, why did she not tell her that all this time she could write like this? So I guess I should have been a writer and known all my life. But I've done a lot of things. I'm a very creative person. I played in bands, music. I'm a drummer, singer, play a little guitar.
Really?
Yep, played music most of my life. I chefed for a long while. I decided I wanted to own restaurants, and I just bought a restaurant and went ahead and said, I'm going to do this. And I did that for a while. So I've done a lot of interesting things, which led me to a lot of public speaking, some acting teaching. I've trained a lot of speakers to act and to be on stage. So I've done a kind of a mishmash of a lot of things, and I have a degree in communication, so I guess that's what it is. My dad always said he paid all that money so I could learn to communicate, but you know what? It worked out. So
Yeah.
I spend probably 50% to 70% of my week writing in some way or another. I own a part own a company, mostly we're really a business strategy company, branding, marketing, business strategy, but we also own a ghostwriting company, ghostwriting and publishing. And that's really my division. I handle all the writing, and I do handle some of the. I've been up to recently handling a lot of the web technology, just the clients, dealing with the client and what they want, and communicating with them what they want, which I've now passed on to an admin, so I can mostly write. So 2021 is going to be pretty much writing and publishing almost all of the time, and I've been doing that for quite a while. So yeah, I live in Florida. I write a whole lot, every kind of writing you could think of, and pretty much a crazy creative type. So that's me, and I guess that's me in a nutshell, if you will.
Excellent. So now let me go back to, I want to connect your whole story to the present. Now, if you go back in time, what would you say were the things that you really liked when you were growing up, like passions, hobbies? I want to connect that story. What do you used to like?
I was reading at a college level, freshman college level in second grade. My parents were called into the school to say what's going on because I've been reading since I can remember. I when I actually learned to speak in French and in English. Most of my French is now gone, but I've been reading voraciously since I'm an only child, and I've been reading voraciously since I can remember. So and film. I am a huge film buff. I watch. I as a kid would stay up all night and watch the Late Show and the late all the black and white film. I love old black and white film. So all of those things I think led to this creative side of me that's reading and film are probably my biggest hobbies. Although I'm fairly athletic and back in the day, lots of sports like any other kid, and a lot of water stuff, boogie boards and surfboards and anything on the water, boating. So that's my outdoor stuff. But yeah, I think the written and spoken word theater, I fell in love with theater as a kid. I mean, on Broadway, would go to see. I would go on my own. At 16, I get on a bus, 15, 16, and I'd go over into the city, which is about 20-minute bus ride on a Sunday. And I would go and get half price tickets at the ticket booth up on Broadway, or I'd stand in line and get standing room tickets. I got so well known in the theaters that the usherettes would put me in seats at intermission because I'd be standing and they recognized me. I would sit in box seats. I'd sit in orchestra seats. Nobody came. Sit over here. And then nice ladies would. And I was a little kid. My parents didn't even think about it. They just let me go. And I would go wander around Manhattan and on a Sunday afternoon and go to matinees. I absolutely loved the theater and still do. To this day, I wish I see New York and I'm heartbroken at where we stand right now, praying that it comes back to normal.
So you started very early in life, becoming like a need for communication to express yourself. There was something you wanted to express.
Yeah.
You started reading. And that's how I think you connect now to being what you are today, right? You started reading and acting.
Yeah. I think if you want to write fiction, you really need to read fiction, and you need to also watch film.
Right.
And I really believe that. I think that fiction without a great deal of dialogue is boring. And if you don't know how to utilize dialogue and you haven't listened to dialogue and get an ear for different kinds of dialogue, you're never going to write good fiction. That's my opinion. And that's just an opinion. Some people write fiction that has, little to no dialogue, but I just think it doesn't have the same expression that if you put a fair bit of dialogue in.
So when and how did you find out that you were good at writing?
I started writing, I can't even remember how young, but I was telling you a story earlier. I had a friend and we were seniors in high school, and she was supposed to keep a diary all year and she never bothered. And I was always keeping diaries. I always had all these books. And so she was crying, and we're in the band room. I was the drum captain of the band, and she was in my squad, and she was crying, and she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I said, well, here, take a couple of these, because I've got all these notebooks in the old marble notebooks, and every entry, I never put my name in them. I put me. I would just put me, poems and all kinds of stuff. And she took them to her teacher and said, here, I've been working on this all year. Believed her. Oh, how clever that you used me instead of your name, Lisa. And the teacher said, why did you not tell him? This is great talent. This is your calling. You should be a writer. So, so I guess forever is the answer. I've been writing a long, long time. Got into playwriting about, I don't know, 15 years or so ago. I got into playwriting, and I just got excited about that. Started writing plays. Still kinds of stuff. But yeah, I've been writing a long time.
Well, speaking about writing, how do you find inspiration to write? You in particular. Yeah, you have to look at for a specific topic, or you just expect an inspiration to come, or it has to be based on something, it has to be certain days. How do you find yours?
The weirdest places, I have.
Well, it's places mostly.
No, I shouldn't even say that. For like plays, I have had all kinds of weird inspirations. I wrote a play called Dinner for Six, and I'll be damned if I know where it came from, but it was a play within a play, and it was which is typical when you're a young playwright. You kind of write plays within plays. But I just had a weird idea in my head. I wake up with weird ideas. I have a series of films called A Man and His Chicken. Don't ask me why. I have the strangest ideas. I have an idea that we've had for some time about which we think would be a great TV show. And so I'm thinking about writing it as a novel, though. I've got COVID hair. I apologize. We were actually with a group that was traveling with a show that I helped write some of and mostly produced and directed. And we got stuck in Nyack, New York, of all places. And by accident, we messed up on our accommodations, and I had a whole bunch of actors we went up staying in this really crappy hotel in Nyack and had the time of our lives. And we were kicking around and we started kicking around this idea. We called ourselves the Masters of Nyack because we finally figured out how to get around Nyack, which is a strange little town to get around. And I started coming up with this whole idea from what we were doing. So we were working on that, these crazy characters. Sometimes it's character driven. Sometimes it's an idea for a person that you want to write about. With nonfiction, it's really more driven to something probably societal. I'm working on a book called The Hierarchy of Hatred in America. And that's about where I feel like, and it's a humorous book. I want to take a humorous look at why America hates itself so much and why we hate each other so much and why we're at each other's throats in all the ways we are. So that's more that kind of thing. And then a lot of times I'm writing for someone and it isn't my inspiration. I'm getting paid to write what they want me to write. And but what weird thing happens with fiction, especially somebody will give an idea and they'll give me this, I want to write this book about this. And that's it. That's all they have. And my head goes to crazy places and I just start filling in characters and ideas. And it just, I don't know. I think it through. Sometimes I'm driving along and I'll be I have a very, very good memory. I wouldn't say it's eidetic, but I have a very, very strong memory. And so I don't even have to write things down a lot. I'll just have this idea in my head and start to build, and then sit down and there it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm off chain somewhere. I have no idea.
No, I think inspiration is really unique to each person, like a DNA, right? It has to be unique.
Yeah.
Some people find inspiration in places. Other people with music. Do you get inspired by music?
Yeah,
Anytime?
I wrote a lot of music as a kid. We were in bands that mostly played my music around
Oh,
Manhattan.
you're into music as well.
Yeah. Guitar, a little bit of piano, and a lot of drums. I play a lot of drums. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're creative, and being an only child probably is what a lot of it is. I was an only child, and didn't really have a set situation where I had a lot of time on my own, alone. So I think watching film, and I love stories. I just think stories are amazing. Someone a story, even if you're going to write a business book, I really don't let people write business books that are boring when I work with them. We have to tell your story. People don't care about your sales technique. They care about how you help someone with a story about how you help someone with your sales technique. What did you do for someone that's interesting or funny or touching or important? And if you tell those stories, people will buy your book. But if you just tell them, do this X, Y, and Z, and you'll get sales, it's dull, very dull.
Would you say that a book is a very good source of passive income? Potentially?
No, no.
No?
But I would say what it is a very good source of elevation. So it can be passive income, but that's not, depending on what you're talking about. If you're talking about writing a fiction book and you're expecting to make a great deal of passive income from it, I'll be honest with you, probably not. Traditional publishing is all but gone. Two of the major publishers combined this last week. They merged. There's so much fiction out there, and I'll be square with you. A lot of it's plain terrible. It's just poorly thought out. They don't think their characters through. They don't have a good story arc. If you have a brilliant story and you are really something unusual, you're going to be found. It's weird, but people just find it. Someone tells somebody, someone tells someone else, and before you know it, you're J.K. Rowling and you're selling books like mad. But
like in The Tipping Point, you read that book?
It's the the tipping. That's exactly what it is, right? I call it critical mass. You sometimes with a business too, you reach critical mass. Like you're struggling with your business, you're not getting clients, and all of a sudden you get this one client, and they tell everybody how great you are, and you can't handle the business. You reach that critical mass, and books do that occasionally, but it's rare, and you have to have some hell of a book for that to happen. You don't write fiction books because of that. You don't write memoirs because of that. You write business books to elevate your business, not to sell books. Sometimes you're giving that book away. A lot of times you're using it very, very much for speaking. If you got a lot of your people, I imagine, are business people on this, right? You have business folks on your group.
Yeah.
You write a business book or get into a compilation book, which we were talking about earlier, where you write just a chapter. Show yourself as the expert and get out and speak. The more you can speak on podcasts, someday thank God for the vaccinations, maybe we'll all be back to normal by this time next year. You'll be out in conferences, you'll be at conventions, you get to eventually work yourself up to be a keynote speaker or sell from the stage if you're selling a coaching program or whatever it is. That book legitimizes you. If you're going to be any kind of a serious speaker, even if you're just going to Rotary clubs and speaking, having a book in your hand that shows that you're the expert on that subject and that's interesting and fun and different that they're going to read, they'll make your money back on what it costs you to make the book and may have a little bit of passive income. Some people sell thousands of books that way, but it really should elevate you as a coach or as a business person. And if you don't want to do a whole book, do a compilation book like the kinds we put together, where you do one chapter. and get your information in that book alongside of 20, 30, 40 other people who are also selling the book to their people. Now everybody sees who you are.
Tell me a little bit about that compilation book idea.
Yeah, it's a very popular idea. Not everybody can do it, but fortunately for us, we own a publishing company, so it's easy.
What is it, and why does it matter?
A lot of people aren't ready, especially sales, leadership, entrepreneurship books. They're not ready to write a whole book. They don't have enough yet, or they don't have enough on that specific subject to say. Or even if they do, let's say they've got other books that they've written that aren't selling the way they want. They need a little bit of help. I played a lot of team sports. I played softball. I played basketball. I played, every kind of team sport. Um, Even with writing, having a team is not a bad idea. So we put together, right now we're putting together a women's compilation book that's coming out in probably February, mid to late February. And that one is on entrepreneurship. I believe the Ladder of Success or something. I forget the name of the book. Believe it or not, I don't have it in front of me. But we're talking about the ladder that you're on in success, and where am I on this ladder? So we'll have at the end of the day probably 25 or 30 people in that book, and all of them have a following. Even the smallest, newest business has 500 people that follow them. Some people have 30,000 people that follow them. So it's going to be that range. And everyone in that book that contributes to that book will have their headshot, their bio, and their links to their website in the book. And now you're looking at all these other people that are also in that book with you. So when they go to speak and they hand the book out, give it away, sell it, whatever, you don't think they're going to read more than just that person's chapter? Of course they are. They're going to read everybody's chapter, or pretty much everybody's chapter. So if you're in that book, the likelihood is you're going to share your contacts. They're going to share their contact. Everyone's going to be helping each other to elevate and talk about entrepreneurship and help the people who read the book who want to learn about that from other people. So that's one way to get your feet wet and legitimately say, I am a published author, because you will be. You'll be published in a book, in an actual book, not just an article or a blog. So good way to start before you get all the way into something a little more expensive and a little more.
And you can help people do this, exactly, right?
Oh, absolutely. We have a wonderful compilation coming out. Like I said, we're taking applications now for it. So
now, if someone comes to you tomorrow and tells you, look, I have the ability, I have the ideas, I want to write a book, but I don't know what to write about. Yeah, I'm creative, but I don't know what to write about. I would love to write a book, but I have no idea. So where do you start?
Well, we start with, I always do a 45-minute free consultation with people. I'm happy people half an hour to 45 minutes to see what they're talking about. It really depends on the kind of book they want to write. If they think they want to write let's say they want to write a business book or entrepreneurship book, what I think I'd first find out is what their expertise is. I think a couple of people was on your group were saying they didn't know what they were good at. Wasn't there one lady who was like, I'm not good at anything. I don't know anything. That's not true. I wanted to say to her and have time this week, and I will address her. That's not true. We all are good at something. We all know something really, really well. It might be one little thing, but it may be enough to talk about, right? So I find out where they stand, what they want to, what their expertise is, what really fires them up, what makes you so excited you want to tell everybody about it. Emilio, I could talk to you until tomorrow about writing. I could talk to you tomorrow about film, right? What excites us? So once I know what excites them and what they're interested in and what they have some expertise in and what they could give to the world, and the most important thing when writing a book, especially, like I said, something where you're talking about leadership or sales, don't think about money, how much you're going to make. Don't think about, what it's going to do so much for you, although it's important to know that. What is this book going to do for someone else? How will it elevate their life? How will it improve their situation? If you look at that your book or your subject matter from that standpoint, that you're going to do something for other people by writing this book, they're going to learn something, they're going to be better from it. Now you got a reason to write a book, and then we can go from there. Now we outline the book, we help you figure out, okay, what are your chapters going to be like? What are your subject? Let's break your subject down into smaller bites. Let's break it into chapters, and let's break it into sub-chapters. So in that chapter, there's maybe 3 or 4 points we're going to get to. And then from there, it's a breeze.
And I guess that once you're embarked and you start finding all these gold that you had to expose here. Maybe you start getting new ideas and type of new ideas, and it compounds, right?
It's an evolution. It evolves. Absolutely. With fiction, I usually tell people if they want to write fiction, they do need to do pretty much the same thing. Look at what you want. What's your story arc? You know, and every book has a story arc. Even books on business have an arc. I'm going to get from here to there. And once you know like what that arc is, whether it's a play or whatever, and what's the end result going to be, then from there it's a matter of saying, okay, I'm going to break down in each chapter. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. This. I'm not. I didn't get to read, and I should have read not Lord of the Rings. What's the one that was just out there? It went right out of my head just now. The big science fantasy book that was out. So for everybody was watching it, I can't think of it. You look at a show, a TV show that you watch. Look stupid. Look at Friends. All right, 10 years of Friends. They knew that at the end Jennifer Aniston was going to wind up with the Ross guy. Right? They knew that. They wrote to that. They wrote to it. Believe it or not, they knew at some point this is where it work. And every season has an arc. This is gonna happen. It's gonna end. So if you have that idea with a fiction book, and you can see that, then all you do is just sort of break down what important issues are going to happen in each of these chapters. I had a young man who was writing a historical fiction book, and I made him sit down. In this chapter, the friends are going to get in trouble here. They're going to go to this bar. Write details. Write it out like it's like a little story, and then you can go ahead and write the actual chapter. And if something is too much and it needs to get moved, or it's not enough and you have to move it this way, stuff from chapter 3 might wind up in 4, or stuff from 4 might wind up in 3, but you've got a roadmap to what your fiction is going to be about. And there are people who free flow write fiction. They just start writing and see what happens. And it works, but it's not easy that way. It's easier to know where you're going.
So you think it's necessary when you start and have the idea about what the whole thing is going to be about. I'm a speech writer, so I write a lot of speech. I speak in public, so every day I'm writing speeches. The first thing I had the main idea, and then I divide it like in 3-5 parts. Then I create a very good intro, and then I create a good ending. I just don't want to say, all right, thank you. I want to end up in something. So, but writing a book, I don't know if it's the same thing. Do you think I have to know how it ends, or you just can get started and then figure it out?
I think it's easier if you have a pretty good idea how it ends. I have never spoken to J.K. Rowling, but I love Harry Potter. If I had a guess, she knew exactly where that was going to end, right from the get-go. She knew who was going to wind up with who, what the battle was going to be, who was going to win, and how it was going to wind up. She knew. She probably mapped it out in a very broad way. I'm not sure she knew she was going to have 7 books, but I think she had a story arc from beginning to end that she was hopeful of. I could be wrong. But I do think with most books, if you at least have a pretty good idea, if you're going to write a series of books, a lot of people with fantasy, they write series. So they may at least know where the end of series 1 is going to end up. They may not know the whole story, but it is helpful, I think, to have a pretty fair notion of what you have in mind to get to, And most people, I think, have a pretty good idea. I'm writing another fiction book I've been writing for a while, and the story has evolved, but basically I know what the ending is. I know what I'm writing to. When I write a play, I do that a lot too. I know where I'm going, and I just got to get there. So it changes though, and you got to allow yourself to change it. Sometimes you get I wrote one play, and I had this one idea of an ending. And I was wrong. And I woke up one morning and went, wait a minute, this is what's wrong. This person belongs to leave town with this person, not this one. And I just had to think it through, and I changed. And that was the way I found the ending, just like that. But it's weird how it evolves. I mean, you got to let it evolve. But if you don't have some idea and you just start randomly writing, you could be writing for years trying to get a fiction book done, and you may never get it done.
Did you ever get inspirations by a dream?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah.
I bet.
Really crazy, but I had this dream of a thing called a man and his chicken. And I actually
a man and his chicken and
chicken. Yeah, the chicken is like his inner self, and it's ridiculous, a spoof. But we actually filmed it. We got a chicken suit, the whole bit. I mean, this guy is he's just this really despairing. His guy is miserable, and he and his chicken travel about together, drinking beer and having fun. and his wife is mad at him all the time because he's a ne'er-do-well. So, but I dreamt the whole thing, and I actually got a bunch of people who filmed it. That was funny. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's stupid. You wake up with crazy ideas in your head sometimes, you know. So, and sometimes they're good, and sometimes they're just bad dreams. But you know, you don't have to be married to anything. That's the great thing about fiction, especially. You don't have to be married.
Yeah, I believe in the biggest source of dreaming. It holds it's a direct communication with your subconscious, which holds all the information actually. So
Right.
whatever comes from that, sometimes it's difficult to understand it from the conscious point of view,
Yeah.
but it holds a lot of information if you just start thinking about it. Now, I have an important question.
Sure.
Who can write a book?
Okay. Um, Pretty much everybody has something to say, and I would say 90% of the people in the world could put together a book. Most people can. Almost everyone. But it's a matter of how and what. Some people want to write can write. You yourself, I believe, you told me, shorter books, little
Mhm.
ebooks that they can put out that it's informational, that can help you grab a list. We do that all the time. We work with people to put together a book that'll only go on their website, that maybe 10,000 words or 5,000 words even. That's a great little subject matter that they want to tell people the 5 ways to do something. It's more than a blog. It's a nice little ebook. Sometimes you want to put together a 30 or 40 page ebook that you actually put on Amazon and sell for 99 cents or $1.99. But that could be a list builder. People sign up, they can download it for free, and now you've got their name, and you can talk to them about coaching because they like the subject, how to lose weight, how to stop smoking, whatever it might be. Bigger books, somebody has a real expertise in sales, a new sales technique or leadership concept. You know your subject, you know what it is. Mindset, finding your passion. A lot of people like to talk about that kind of thing. How to leave the corporate world and actually do what you were meant to do. Right? There's a guy I'm working with. I'm going to be recently writing a book about that, about how he really believes that people don't know, they can't accept what they were meant to do. So it depends on your subject and what it is. You can write that kind of book. Fiction is not for everyone, but there are a lot of people who have an idea for a story and get out there and write it. You know, I'm working great story. We just released a book called Warm Bodies, Morgan City, 78. And the book is set in 1978, and I wrote most of the book with my client, who's become a friend, and but this she and I crafted it together. I did a lot of the writing, but the storyline we kept evolving together. She was in high school in 1978 in Morgan City, Louisiana, when a serial killer rolled into town, unbeknownst to anyone, to work at the oil drilling facility. They were drilling for oil, and they were building the oil rigs and all that. So he's working on those facilities. He wreaked havoc all across the country, but it was 1978. There was no internet. No one knew who this guy was. I think he gave him a false name, and he started working building oil rigs and raping and murdering teenagers, one of which she knew very well, a friend of hers from high school. And it stuck with her all these years. And she never got around to writing this. She had started to write a little screenplay about it. And in about a year, we put together a book that's phenomenal. And it's scary and disturbing about this guy who rapes and murders kids and eventually gets caught. But as you could know, we made a fictional story of it. We have no idea what happened or how this happened or who this guy really was, but we knew what he did and how it affected a community. So we took that part of it and turned it into a fiction book with a series of characters and all kinds of information about the town and about the oil industry and what they were pulling off and the government and how they were involved and the prejudice of Creoles and the blacks and everybody being, the difference between that and the white society in that area and all the things that happened. We created this whole world, and it's quite a hell of a book. It really is. If you want to read something disturbing and interesting and really, really well written, we did a great job with it, I think. So, fiction though, you have to have a really strong idea about what you want to write about. And I think if you have a pretty good idea, yeah, you do it. And don't necessarily expect to make $1 million, but it could happen. It's it's not easy.
Many times I tell people that just regular people, not without any kind of degree in particular, but I tell people, look, if you have a life behind you, right, an extensive life, of,
Yeah.
if you just look into each part of your life, you can pull many stories, right? And if you can find what those stories can help others with, like how do you do in a certain situation to pull out that situation and become somebody else, right? All these things, you can write them down, and then people can find inspiration. You can say it's based on a true story. You can, okay, you can put based on my true story. And if you find, I think there's a lot of art involved in finding which parts you can share. They can mean something to other people, right? And then they can help people change, right? Or become somebody they're not. Or I think everybody has that possibility. Now, many people think that, many people are conditioned to think that you only have to share the good things in life, and the bad things, well, it's a shame, right? You have to keep them for you. You know, you shouldn't sell. I think is the real gold is in all these stressful situations you have in your life. If you can just pull them out and see, how do you pull out of each of these, put them in writing, and get somebody like you to put it all together, right? And make it look good artistically. I think everybody has a good book there, right?
I think, yeah, I think a lot of people have interesting traumatic. I think we've all been traumatized by something. I really do. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier. If you think you're going to write a book that's going to help other people to get through something, I wrote the woman. She was a client of mine who was one of the first children of the Hare Krishna movement. Her parents were one of the original Hare Krishnas. They joined the movement when the original leader came from India. They were entranced by him, and they joined, and then they had children. And what a mess! I mean, she went through a horrible mess of a life, and she wants to inspire other girls to know that women, particularly, that to know that you can go through some of the worst things you could possibly think of, have no family backing, have a terrible, terrible childhood, and come out where she is. And where she is pretty damn fantastic. So, I mean, it just took her forever to get there, but she's 50 now, and she wants to inspire people with that story, and be able to put it out into the world and go speak and talk about that at women's groups and teenage groups and girls who've been through traumas and abuse. And boy, if you want to talk about a story. So everybody has some sort of story like that. And it doesn't have to be you write a big giant book. And again, with business or sales, or you have an expertise of some sort, share it. What can people learn from it? How can they grow because of you? And that's what's important. What are you doing for others? So,
It's not a matter of really if we have it because we have the story. It's a matter of how do you say it, right? How do you
yeah.
find the way to say that it will make sense to others to buy it and read it, right? Next week, right, this coming week, 7 days from today, I'm having a podcast with a beautiful girl, excellent person. That I'm bringing her because she had a very traumatic event in her life. She's went through like a PTSD situation, and we're gonna speak live. And she said, I had to manage to get over that, and I want to bring her because I think others can benefit of how did she do to pull out of that, right?
Right.
And a lot of people need that. One
Right.
one one phrase of how did you do that, because I'm going through the same thing, can pull somebody out too, right? So I
Right.
think everybody can share those kind of stories and put them in writing. It doesn't have to be like you say something extremely long, but something a short book. How do you do this, right? And I think people will
Right.
buy that.
Whatever it is. Yeah. And I think a lot of people have trouble with resilience. I think that some people are simply born resilient. You see those kids that are tough as hell by the time they're 3. Those tough little tykes on the playground. They fall off the monkey bars and they just laugh. And they got whatever that is, right? And then other
Mhm.
people don't, and they have to learn some resilience. They have to learn that you can get past your parents dying. You can get past a bad car accident, being held up at gunpoint. You can get past almost anything, but you have to find the way to. I like to say life is just about waves. I told you I'm a water person. I've always been into surfing, boards and
Yeah.
boogie and surfing. And I think there are basically 3 kinds of waves, and they equate to life. Right? There's that great wave that's really awesome, and it comes right at the perfect point, and you're right in the right spot, and you ride that sucker all the way to the beach, and it is a great ride, and everything's cool. And you're like, wow, that was the best wave in the whole world. And then you go back out, try again, no. And there's the waves that are like not quite right, so you just sort of like jump on over them, and you sort of have to rise over them, and then they kind of roll past you, and it's not a big deal. And then there's those monster waves that are so freaking big, you have no option but to go through them. You know, and some of them are really big. and really long to go through. But the truth of the matter is that if you can keep holding your breath and get through them, when you get out the other side, the sun is shining on you, and you're through it, and you're like, okay, I got this. You know. So I mean, I think that's what it boils down to. And if you got a story to tell about a wave you hit one way or the other, a good one you rode and it was awesome, tell us how to do it. Next time we'll all try to catch that wave. You know, if it's a bad one, you had to go through it. Yeah, you know, how'd you get to the other side? And that you do get to the other side. That's the answer, that you do actually. Very few times do we actually drown, right? Very few, even great surfers almost never drown. And so it happens, but luckily most of the time we're able to get through the wave. And I think that's really what telling your memoir. Memoirs are interesting. I write a lot of those. I work with people who are writing them, and I get to hear a lot of sometimes disturbing stories, sometimes elevating stories, but they're always interesting stories. They're always unique, and you know what? They're not unique, even when they are, because as unique as your story is something about your story that is not necessarily unique only to you. There's going to be a lot of people. There's some part of it
Right.
connect to the way an actor connects to a certain thread. When you have to portray another person as an actor, what we look for is that one thing, even if it's the smallest thing about that thing, that person you're portraying that is like you. So you can connect to that thing, and then bring it to life. And I think that's true in stories. And your memoir is going to connect to somebody and say that's it exactly happened to me, but it's like what happened to me. And wow, that's cool that you were able to do that. And now I think maybe I can do that. So you know, that's what we do.
Absolutely. You're completely right about the wave thing. I think life, if you think about it, is a combination of the four elements, which
Mhm.
I don't. You're never always on firm ground, right? It's more like being on the water. And if
Yeah,
the secret is about learning how to drive those waves, make the
yeah,
balance, right? And like you say, sometimes they're going to take you to the shore, sometimes they're going to bring you back. But at the end is how you handle it. And I think
yeah.
those are the best stories to tell. How do you do? Because many people are feel like punished by life, lost, saying this happened to me. Like they feel victims, like everything has happened to them. But
Right,
how did that person do to get out of that, right? How did that person do? Maybe if you read their story, it can inspire you. So that's why we have these stories, I think, to tell them. It's not for you
right,
to say, oh my God, I was punished. These things happened to me. Oh, I was so lucky I got to that. I think these stories have to be told because
right.
others use it as reference in their lives, right?
Yes.
Now,
Point of reference. Very true.
let's go to the part of business. We're getting there. Is it possible to, I know you know the answer, but let me get there so people can listen to this. Is it possible if I want to write a book, but I don't have the skill, can I hire others to do it for me?
Yeah, that's
People are
what.
afraid because they feel they have to do it themselves. But what about it? Can you hire others to do that?
Yeah, well, that's what our ghost. I mean, I'm a ghostwriter. I have a team of ghostwriters that works with me, and editors and developmental editors. So, if you want somebody like us to work with you, we can either write the book for you more or less, because we almost never write a book for somebody without much interaction with them. There's usually a lot of interaction. Well, chapter by chapter, we'll interview you and find out what you want to talk about in that particular chapter. Once we have an outline, a kind of a roadmap for what your book's going to be about, then you just talk to us. You talk, we type, we make notes, we take. Some of us like to do recordings, other Zoom or whatever. Personally, I like to just make typing notes, and then we write it chapter by chapter and send it to you, and you kind of get an idea of what you want to change or don't want to change. But for the most part, we do the majority of the actual writing. Even with some fiction, I've written several fiction books that way. Um, if you want to take something you've already got, like I was telling you, I work with a lady who had a bunch of blogs. She had a lot of written material, but it wasn't organized in any way, shape, or form. But we helped her organize an outline that made sense, and then we took her blogs and rewrote them to fit. We a lot of it was her writing. So if you've got a lot of like written material, but it doesn't make a book, we can help you develop it into a book, or help you take other materials you might have, articles that you were part of, or a chapter you wrote here that you didn't finish on this or whatever, and we sort of put your thoughts together. If you feel like you can write, what we'll do is we'll take what you've written, and then we can do a lot of copy editing, or kind of a deep copy editing, so that we help you maybe move chapters around, maybe organize a little differently. So it's anything from that to you write and we coach. keep you accountable. I mean, if you want to write and all you want is a coach, we'll keep you accountable. We'll read what you got and make some notes for you and edit, and you do most of the writing. So it really runs the gambit of, you don't write a word, so you write all of it, and we help you formulate what you're going to do, and then we publish it for you if you like. And that's how that works. So
What if I come and tell you, look, I have a great story, but I'm not gonna sit down and write it really. Can I record it for you and I give you all the recordings? Can you do that?
yeah, we have people who actually transcribe the recordings for us pretty
Really?
inexpensively. Hmm.
I love that.
I don't do that. It's not worth it. To be honest with you, who do that for a living, and they don't kill me too badly. So we roll that into your cost, and they'll then give me Word documents of what you've said, and that's the best way to do that. And then from there, though, we're still going to smooth it out. Because the chances are it's not going to be just what you said. It's going to be made into the written word as opposed to spoken word. So, yeah, we've had people who do video training, and will do the transcription, and then smooth it out, add it to some things, make beginnings and endings for their chapters, and sort of put it all together.
Sounds interesting, really. Yeah, I think recording voice and writing is big time consuming, right?
It's
So
very
maybe
time
it's not
consuming.
worth.
No,
Can
there
you
are
do it
people
and
who do
still
that.
charge more for it? Maybe I tell you, look, I have money, don't worry. Can you do it for me? I'll give you all the recordings. You just have to put it on paper and accommodate it so it looks interesting. Can you do that
Yeah, yeah,
for
and
the
like I
right
said,
money?
most people, we have people who do that all the time, but it's not. You certainly don't want me to do that. Like I said, we have people who make a lot less money by the hour than I do to go ahead and just write it down. They have a way of doing it. So, and maybe have
And
some
you
sort
said you can help people build a story from scratch, right? You give a consultation to see where they come from, what they want to write about.
Tell you my favorite story on that one. I had a guy come to me. I met him on Facebook by accident. I was said something about ghostwriting, and somebody didn't know what it was, and I explained what it was, and he said, "Are you a ghostwriter?" He's texting, and I said, "Yeah." He said, "Can I call you?" I said, "Oh God, that's going to be nuts." He wasn't nuts. He was a really cool guy, and
Mhm.
wanted to write a story about a girl who was about 14 or so, whose 16-year-old sister had died kind of mysteriously, and they didn't know what from, but they thought she maybe got sick and died in her sleep. And then the girl has a diary, and she finds this diary, and all he had, this is all he had, was in the diary. There was a note from her sister from the grave: "Help me, help find my murderer." The ghost story. He had nothing else, literally nothing else. 2 books later, and about 45-star reviews, and all kinds of whatever, we have the Rose Diary and the final chapters of the Rose Diary, young adult books that are really, a lot of adults are reading fiction. And I came up with the entire rest of that story. He didn't know who the murderer was. He had nothing, but he had people interested in a film of this story, and he still does. He has people who are very interested in turning it into a film. And so far, he hasn't gotten there. Then COVID hit, but he said to me, "That's all I got, but I got some words somebody wrote for me. I didn't like it. You take what we started with." He had about 15,000 words from another writer from England, and she had some good ideas, but it wasn't quite there. In literally 5 weeks, I wrote him a 60,000 word book that he then pitched to this film company, and we left it as a cliffhanger, and we wrote the rest. I knew that I was going to write a second book, and now we're talking about writing a series of it because it's a great idea. This girl has this ability to kind of talk to ghosts, but it's in a different sort of way. So the answer to that is a long answer to say that if someone has an idea for fiction, but they need a lot more than an idea. You need a lot more than just, this is the concept. That's great. That's a good start. You need characters. You need to develop those characters. You need to understand what they had, down to what they have for breakfast. You need to understand these characters really strongly. You need to know what the story is going to be. What where the high point is going to come. Where's the tension going to be? Stories without tension are nothing. So to find so I had red flags that this was the murderer, this wasn't the murderer. And at the end of the first book, somebody's been arrested and he's not the murderer. And we find out at the very end of that book, we find out he's not the murderer. The ghost tells us he's not the murderer. And now we have to find out who the murderer really is. So now we go to book 2 and we find out who the actual murderer is. So, and it's the last person you would have thought of. So that's the story. You have to understand. You have to have a thought in your head about. You have to really think it through. And if you spend some time thinking it through and developing it, and writing down those ideas and getting a real roadmap, and it gets bigger and fatter and bigger, and the characters get stronger, and you know who they are, and you know the kind of things they would say, and your dialogue is good and strong, you can put together something really phenomenal. But it takes work. It takes time. It takes you sitting down and saying, I'm going to spend a couple of hours a week. I'm going to, look, I always say, if you want to write a fiction book or any book for that matter, if you write one page a day in 365 days in 1 year, you're going to have a 365 page book. That's a lot of book. That's a pretty good sized book. That's more than you need it to be. So you have to dedicate some time. And it might be that you write 3 days a week in the mornings or the evenings, or 2 days a week, whatever it is. You got to get into a schedule, a pattern, something. You got to give yourself some idea of when do you want to write, what kind of time you're going to devote to it, and really, while you're not writing, be thinking about it. Be thinking about those characters. What would they be doing today? What would they be saying? If you could keep them in your head while you're driving along and you get some ideas, maybe keep the thing and take your phone out and make yourself some notes, whatever. Before you know it, you got a book, but you got to use your imagination. You got to have one. You have to have imagination. I
Yeah,
think
it's
would say.
people may think they have to sit down and write a whole book. It's about I think it's about just collecting ideas whenever they come
Yeah.
and putting them. They just put them all together one day, right? And hire somebody
Yeah.
like you. Maybe 100 years ago, there was writers that used to do that for a living. You had to be, a doctor in something, whatever, and they sit down and write. Right now, you don't need to have a title. You just hire somebody like Lil, right? And hire
Yeah.
and she'll do everything for you. So if you
I'll
guys
do
are
everything for you,
watching,
or I'll do everything with you. It depends on what you want to do, right? I,
right?
Game of Thrones was what I was thinking of. That whole thing about Hodor and hold the door. You don't think they thought of that? And that wasn't in the beginning of their thoughts, so they knew that, right? Those are the things you have to start to think about. What can I trick them with later? What am I gonna surprise people with later on? But it's just imagination, and not everybody's gonna write fiction. Most of my clients don't. They write memoirs or they write business or leadership books, and that's really fine. I can help you with that tremendously, and our staff can do everything from do all that, then make your book cover and your back cover copy so people want to read it, and get your ISBN number and typesetting, and put a website up for you if you want a website, or get your Facebook up, or do a promo for it, a little video promo, whatever. We can do a lot of.
Can I hire you? An example? Can I hire you to write a book about something that you have no idea really, and just
Absolutely.
base it purely on research?
I wrote a book on LED lighting. So,
Really?
no idea. One time I wrote a series of blogs I got paid a whole lot for on GPS tracking. And while the guy was hiring me and talking to me on the phone, I'm frantically looking up what the heck GPS tracking is. But the money was really good. I was like, geez, I can't turn this down. I was younger. I need the money. But no, yeah, I write a lot of, I research all the time. And that's another thing. Like, you don't think that they wrote Game of Thrones without a ton of research. You've got to research, and you've got to know. The book I wrote just recently with Sharon, Warm Bodies, I research. They travel a lot. I wrote a book called Strange Moves about a woman who's got 3 different personalities. And man, I had to research everything from where she traveled to, the road she would be on, what kind of food she would eat. I mean, you do research. Research is everything. We have a book out called Accelerate, which I wrote with a NFL football player, alumni from NFL. And he and I are doing a lot with that book, actually, turning it into a course. And it's for young people. It's a book for young people, teaching them how to think about what they want to be in their career. What does success mean to them? Kind of figuring themselves out. We really, at the end of the day, want young teenagers, to know that it's their decision who they want to be in life and how to figure that out, and not let somebody else influence that. They got to look at and say, what matters to me? What really fires me up? Like I say, right? So with that book, though, we had a ton of research. We had to research all kinds of different, we have quotes from other people, and we have inspiration from all over the place, and stories about young people who are very successful in different ways, and just everything. You got to do the work. I mean, but if you don't want to do the work, and you say, I know what I want, yeah, I mean, do you think that famous people, like politicians, most of them even write those books? Of course they don't. I mean, someone writes all those books. They just have a lot of money to spend on them. But we're not that kind of money. We don't cost that kind of money to write a book for you. But if you need a book for a conference or to go and speak, and you want us to write for you, we can do the heavy lifting for sure. So,
Do you have a lot of packages to offer to people, or you just build them based on their needs?
yeah, we don't so much we have publishing packages, because that's a pretty set thing. If you want to, we call it hybrid publishing, because at the end of the day, the royalties go to you, not us. We do all the work that you would do yourself, but most people don't know how to do. Most people do not know how to typeset a book or how to get it onto Amazon or Ingram Spark. They don't know how to get an ISBN number, and they certainly don't know how to make a book cover that will compel you to buy it. So we do all the work, and then we set you up so that the royalties go into your bank account, not ours. So that's set. When it comes to writing, I really need to sit with a person and see like what kind of work I'm going to be doing or my staff is going to be doing to make a decision about the cost. But we have a fair idea to write a, let's say, a 40,000 word business book. We have a pretty good idea most of the time, the kind of time that's going to take and what it's going to cost to do it. So, but it varies. It does vary.
You know, I always wanted to sit with somebody to, because I have a really powerful idea, but I always thought that the idea was going to be stolen. That somebody's going to steal my idea and make them a book. So
Well,
I
let me tell
didn't
you
ever
something
wanted to
that could
share the
happen.
idea.
It could happen, but we sign non disclosures all the time. We sign NDAs probably 3 or 4 months. So you want a good NDA, and we have them. We have them. It's I'm actually teaching a guy. I'm going to be teaching, I hope, a course on ghostwriting next year for people who want to do what I do. And frankly, we could use some more writers on the staff. So I'm hopeful that one or two of the students will turn out to be pretty good. But in their toolboxes, things like contracts and NDAs. So when they study with me, they get all that stuff. They get everything they need to do to go out and make a living as a ghostwriter and blogging and all that. But I will be honest with you. Two things. One, I personally don't want your story. If you tell me your story, I'm not going to steal it because I haven't got time to write your story. I got enough stories to write, and it's wrong. It's unethical. If you're a ghostwriter, you cannot do that. I'd lose my career. It would be terrible to do. And what you think of a story and what I might make of it will be two entirely different books. So if you've got a really, really unique idea and you want someone like me to listen to it, sign an NDA. Have them sign an NDA. I would gladly sign one with you or
And
anyone.
you sign that in the consultation or once you're hired?
Oh no, I do that before I'm hired. I mean, because I might be honest with you, I might not think it's a great idea and I don't want to write it. It may be of no interest to me, or it may be something that's antithetical to my beliefs. I mean, if it's something that bashes people in any way or hurts people or is something that I personally would feel uncomfortable writing, I probably wouldn't. I would pass. So before I listen to someone's ideas about anything, and they're concerned that they have a different sales method than somebody else has, or they have a story that no one they have a Game of Thrones. I make them. I'll sign an NDA and say, "Come after me if God forbid I ever."
Okay, so good to know that people will be protected. No ideas
No,
will be stolen.
no,
Don't worry.
but it. You think writing a fiction book is simple? It is not. If you have a fiction book, an idea for a fiction book, and somebody has the chutzpah to steal that idea from you, they're going to be years in the making to try to beat you out of that. So, and look, I think it's like music. There are very few stories that haven't been told. There's very few notes that haven't been played. So if you've got something really wildly unique, I would say protect it in some way that you can, and find somebody you trust enough to give you an opinion of whether or not they think it's worth going on with it, or that they can help you or want to help you, or you want to hire them. But there are a lot of good, reputable people like me, and there are a lot of crappy people. So I think you just have to choose the right people to tell your story to. And if you go on your own and get a lot of it done, that's different. I don't know that people like J.K. Rowling sat with anybody and told her this phenomenal story, but I don't know how much of it she wrote in advance. I know that the second book was not as good as the first book. It took her a while to get her mojo going, but like I said, I think she had the whole arc in her head, like where it was going to wind up. So she trusted, and she's a multi-millionaire.
Do writers nowadays come with a prefer to write on Word documents, or have you still see the old traditional handwriting?
Oh, handwriting? No, don't please don't give me handwriting. Don't write anything with pen. Um, I prefer Word docs just because I can deal with them much more easily. People use Scribe. There's a bunch of different software that people tend to use, but I like a good old Word doc I can manipulate because I can make track changes easily and send it back to you and show you where I've made changes so you can see what I've done.
So you don't accept any handwriting
No,
to start work.
no. You write something by hand.
You have to pass it all on Word.
Yeah, I got to see it, and I can't I'd have to I would have to literally type it in somewhere, and I'm not about to do that or pay someone to do it.
So suppose that I have a 30-page story already, and I give it to you to, what's next after that? What do you do with that?
I would probably not read 30 pages as a consultation. I get paid to do that. Um, I'll give you an example. A woman sent me 35 pages today that she's trying to do. It's more of a play kind of thing, but and I won't read the whole thing, but I will read parts of it to see what her writing style is. I already read the first 2 pages, so I'll probably skip around a little bit, get an idea of what she's going for, and then go back to her about what she needs to do. If you want me to read something that's 35 pages long, then you got to pay for me at least an hour of my time, and I'll read the whole thing. I'll read.
No, let's see, you're already hired,
Yeah, I would
and I
have to be
already gave you
hired
the
to
30
read all of
pages.
it and give you a full consultation, and that's kind of what, like dramaturging for a play. It's the same kind of idea. I dramaturge with plays as well, which would be to say that I would then make notes for you. You wouldn't just have me reading. Okay, it's good. No, like you'd hire me for maybe a couple of hours, and I would, if it's depending on the length of the thing, 35 pages, probably 2 or 3 hours. So then what I would do is I would read it, and I would give you notes like, this was really great, this was really strong. Have you thought about this? And then I'd make some suggestions, or say it's fantastic, and I literally have no suggestions. You're a genius. Go forward, which could happen. Never has yet. So usually it's something. Not that I'm smarter than everybody, but I'm doing this a long time. So usually I have something that's a valuable suggestion. You could take or leave. You don't have to use my suggestions, but I would probably make some notes and some thoughts and tell you what I liked and didn't like, and what might be stronger or what might be. And then from there, if you wanted me to work with you on something like that, then I would probably set up a plan. Like, what do you want me to do? How much of this do you want me to write? How much do you want me to help you stay on track with writing? That kind of thing.
So if I come up with the whole Word document, I tell you this is the book right here. So you just would read it, and you will always make suggestions. And how do you think it is better said, or you just put it as is? Or is your duty
What I
to say, you know
say
what, I'm
is,
going to find out, I'm going to see if it's uh, everything is said correctly, right? Because if let's
well,
say people that don't have American English language as the first language, and they wrote the book anyway, it's pretty good, but there can be a
probably
lot
it's
of
going to need
modifications.
editing. At the very least, almost everything needs proofreading. Because
You send it to editing.
yeah, I might suggest, look, this is really well written, but you've got some minor mistakes, and regardless of whether you do, you really should let another set of eyes. Do not try to publish something that no one else has looked at, because you've made a mistake. I promise you, you made a mistake. You made a bunch. So you want to send it to a proofreader, and they may still make mistakes, but at least you'll have less mistakes, because at least the proofreader gets about 95% of it, and we're all human, and somebody misses something. But you're going to have mistakes, and so you want somebody to proofread. If it needs much more than that, the next step would be what we call copy editing, or sometimes they call that line editing, which means that we would change the way that you phrase something. We might suggest you move a paragraph around. We might redline some stuff and say, you spend too much here. You're giving the reader too much information they don't need, or you haven't given them enough information. You need to fatten this up right here. You need some more detail. So, a good example, I'm working with a lady right now. This is a true story. When she was 15, her 13-year-old sister was raped and murdered uh, in a park. She was bicycling, and it was traumatic. She was all of a sudden she was an only child. Her kid sister was gone. Family went through all kinds of stuff. Tried to put it behind her. Went through a lot of traumatic stuff in her life because of it. She never really dealt with it. 32 years later, the cold case unit found the guy through DNA. They found him 32 years later. And now, that was a year and a half ago, she's dealing with the aftermath of now having to deal with facing this man who now is in his 60s, who's gone to jail for probably the rest of his life, God willing. But she is missing details. So now we've got about 35,000 words. And again, talking to me, writing notes, making chapters, her making notes. So she said, I need to put more detail in this. Happened in the 80s. I want to put stuff about being a kid in the 80s. And so she's going in now and adding details. And then I will take the whole thing, read it again, smooth it all out, send it to her one more time. We'll be going through this process probably for another month. And then come early January, that book will be be off to. She wants a traditional publisher. So she's got queries about that, because she's been on Dateline and all these, obviously when this happened, it was a big story. This man was put in jail over the DNA, and it was his only crime. He'd never done anything else. Nothing. This is it. They never had him for not even for a speeding ticket. This guy just did this effed up thing in his 20s, and nobody knows why. So that's a story, you know. So, but there's not detail. She's got to go in and fill in the little stuff. So, yeah, you know, that does that make sense? Did I answer that well? I don't know.
Yeah, perfectly. Makes a lot
Okay.
of sense. Let me see. And what's different between ghostwriter and copywriter?
Very different. A copywriter writes copy. And by copywriting, we mean just about anything: press releases, web content, ads, particularly ads. Copywriters
Commercial stuff.
associated with ads. A copywriter, particularly somebody who writes for magazines and newspapers, the copy that you see in an advertisement. That's but these days, copywriting kind of is extended into blogging even sometimes. A ghostwriter writes without credit, typically speaking, and someone else who hired them puts their name on the book or their name on the blog. I blog for people, and the city that I blog for, one of the cities I blog for, they just put it on their city website. They don't credit me. It's just like a staff writer at the city wrote it, but no, I wrote the blogs. You know, or could be
So
anything.
you are you also a copywriter?
Yeah, I write everything. I mean, I do less of that and more book and more book writing and coaching. And now I'm teaching. I'm going to be teaching. Actually, I'm going to be teaching two classes. One on ghostwriting, and then I'm doing one. My friend Charlene is helping me put the funnels together for a book course. It's going to be 8 weeks, and in 8 weeks you'll pretty much have written your own book. You may not be completely finished, but you'll have your outline and several chapters written, and you'll be able to finish the book. If you don't finish it in 8 weeks, you'll be. And this is mainly for sales, business, memoir kind of thing. You'll have a pretty good leg up on writing the whole book. And if you need to hire me beyond that, you can hire me beyond that. But you'll be in a group. You won't work alone. But it's a group meeting once a week, about an hour and a half of going through what you're writing and asking questions and maybe sharing a page or two of where you're at. Some consultation privately with me. You get once a month, you get a half an hour with me, and you get some time to do your outlining. And I'll do office hours so people can drop in and ask questions once a week. I'll have like about an hour or so that I'll be just kind of online, and people can come in and ask questions. And then you get into a Facebook group. In the Facebook group, you hopefully help each other. In the Facebook group, I'll jump in to do lives now and again, or we'll have a guest writer come in and surprise them with a live, but that you can watch in a replay or what have you. So we're going to put together the Facebook group that you can stay in. I don't care if you're staying in for life, with other writers, people working on books, and it's going to be a lot cheaper if you think you can write yourself. I'm not going to write a thing, but I will help you, with what you're writing and give you suggestions and listen to what you're working on. So
How can people join this
together
program?
as a group?
How can
What?
people join this program?
If you would give people my email address, I would love that.
I'm going to share it right now. Tell me if it's correct.
Yep, Lil Longbar Creatives. That's me. Also, if you're interested in being in the compilation book, I'm sorry, fellas, this is just for the ladies. It's wowbookseries.com. That's WOW bookseries.com. And we have discount prices on the levels that are up there. We have codes. If you're interested, we are offering tremendous discounts on being involved.
Can you repeat the website?
Yes, WOW, like wow. Wow, because it's Women of Worth. Wow, bookseries.com. And if you're interested in that, email me, because I've got the discount codes to get you, more than half of what the prices are up on the website, because that's going to be the right prices. But we're doing introductory prices for this year because we want to get people in this first book. So the lowest level, it says $19.97. It's actually, with our discount, $9.97 to be involved in the book, and you get a lot of value. And then the next two levels up, I have codes for those two, which are drop those in significantly. So more than half of what's there. More than
So you would say that you can work with some budgets.
Oh yeah, and I work with budgets. If somebody wants to come, talk to me about what they can afford, and if they need to make payments, of course. We never. I mean, obviously you're going to write a book with me. It's not cheap, so we don't expect you to pay it all at once. But generally speaking, break them into monthly payments or something like that.
Let me see if I can
If you want to
share.
book series, it's a great website. It's beautiful, and we've got a couple of the authors that are on the they're in level 2 on the thing.
Is that the one? Wowbookseries.com?
Let me see. That's it. Yes, right. Wowbookseries.com. Yeah, if they're interested in the women's compilation book on entrepreneurship.
And what is this longbarcreatives.com about?
Yeah, so Longbar owns these other company. We don't own Wow. Well, we own Wow Book Series. We're co-owners in that, but we're Long and Barkowski. My business partner is Cindy Long. We're the head of the company, and we got about a dozen people that work for or with us, I should say. Um, so we own Ghostwriters Network, which I am the CEO of that company.
Mm-hmm.
Cindy is the CEO of GFAD Design, which is our design firm. So we are basically business strategists. Like I said, if you're starting a business, we can work with you top to bottom. What do you need? And a lot of times it's writing. It's they need a well written website. They need blogging. They need a book, an ebook, something that they can the written word. That's my part. If they need design, that's her part. Her staff, her part of the staff. I I'm not a designer, so she's got designers that work with her, and they'll make your logo and your business. They'll make everything, business cards, your door magnets, whatever anything graphically speaking, promo cards, and she does all kinds of graphics. So they're and the book covers. They do phenomenal book covers. So we work together and we put together this kind of big company now that does all of it. So that's nice. We sort of own that's the parent company that owns the other companies.
Mm-hmm.
And partners on the Wow Book series with Charlene Ignacio, and she's great. She's really awesome. So
And how many people do you need to fill out this Well Book series?
well,
Is
we have about
unlimited?
5 people now. We're looking for about another 20 people, but when we put it up, we put the website up literally about 5 days ago. So
Oh, really?
brand new. Yeah, it's brand new. We're hoping to. I don't expect we're going to get a lot of people prior to the holidays, although we had 85 people interested already. So we're contacting them one at a time, I guess, at this point to talk about what they want to do. And there's 3 levels of participation because the third level really is about a started business. Somebody's like trying to get everything going. We do everything for them from their business cards, their logos, their website, and they're in the book. So it's kind of like a big package that is on the website. It's at $9,997. It's actually $49.97 with our discount. So for $5,000, they're in the book, and then they get an entire business in a box, basically everything they need: logo, business card, website, speaking at our summit, being in the book, being on this website as well, being in the directory there. So it's a really fat package for less than $5,000. So those are the discounts we have. And the middle package is $19.97, and that includes a lot of it's all on there on the website. But so right now we're showing the prices that it will be for this next year. But being as how we're trying to get people involved in this new project, we're offering rather significant discounts to get involved. And
And the only thing they would do is just write their part, and
they'll
you
write
guys do the
1,500
rest.
words. Yeah, and we'll help them. We'll meet with them, talk briefly, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour about what their chapter is going to be about. And then we send them off to write it. And they'll write 1,500 words, and then they'll send it to us, and our editors will help them shape it up a little bit. Obviously, certainly proofread it, so it'll be perfect. And in their chapter, they'll send us a small headshot, and their website information, or their Facebook if they don't have a website, or whatever they want us to link to. The links will be in the book, and then it'll go on Amazon. It'll go on Ingram Spark. It'll be real book. It'll be available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million. It'll be available everywhere like any other book, and of course they'll be in that book, and electronic version of it will be available too, a Kindle version or a print version. So and then they'll be able to buy the book at a very reasonable price. We give them a tremendous discount to buy it. I imagine it'll be less than 10, 12 bucks kind of thing for a book, somewhere in that neighborhood. So they'll be able to sell a book for $20 wherever they go. Like if they're going to be doing a speaking engagement, they want to buy 20 books, they'll buy them through us. We'll give them, so they don't go to Amazon and pay $20 for the book. They'll buy the book through us. It'll be, not a little more than half that. And they can then sell it, make a little bit of money when they're selling it, or give it away, or sell it for 15 or whatever they say, discount, and say get their money back, however they want to do it. That's up to them. But they will have availability for them to buy the book at a discounted rate, as well as get a few copies as part of the deal. So they'll get a few that they can sign for friends and family, and the rest of it they can go and sell. So it's quite a. I'd love to talk to people about it. If anybody'd like to know more about the whole situation, please have them email me, and I'll set up a time to explain what we're doing. But the website's pretty explanatory, and you can see there's a couple of tremendous writers already coming on board with us that we're excited about having on the authors page. So,
And who determines the price of that book?
What do you mean the price to sell it? It's going to be
Yeah.
$19.99.
How much?
The price. It'll be $20, $19.99, and then the Kindle will be $9.99, $9.97, that kind of thing.
Kindle,
Yeah,
like a download?
Kindle version will be under 10, and the regular print version will be around 20, just under 20.
And how do you get those books on stores? Actually, do you guys have certain deals with Barnes and Noble?
Magic. It's the magic we do. We're publishers, so and this is good information if you're ever going to try to do this yourself. I don't recommend you do this at home, but if you first make a great cover, your cover should be amazing, and the back cover copy should be spectacular. Should tell people exactly what that book's about and compel them to buy it. So that's part of what I do. So my team makes a beautiful cover, and then you write the back cover copy, and then what we do is we go to our typesetter, who is our queen of typesetting, and she'll make the interior beautiful. And then she will then help you, or one of us will help you set up 2 accounts. And you can do this on your own. If you do with us, do this. You should have an Amazon account. You may hate Amazon, but get over it because you need them. Okay. So I'm sorry, but if you're going to be a writer, you're going to have to suck that up.
I'm okay with it.
I love Amazon. I know they have their ups and downs, but they've helped a great deal for a lot of things. Anyway, you need a KDP Amazon account. And that's so you're going to go and set up, if you have Amazon, it's really easy. You go on and you set up an Amazon KDP account. They'll walk you right through what to do, and you'll put your bank account information in. And when people buy a Kindle, and you keep it under $10, it has to be $9.97, $9.98, $9.99, because we learned this recently. Amazon takes only 30% of that sale if you're under $10. If you go over $10, guess what? It's 70%.
Wow.
Reason being, they want you to sell the Kindle. People aren't going to spend $12 for most Kindle books. If you want, you can, but in the long run, you're not going to make as much money as if you keep it at $9.99, and people will buy it. $8.99. I think our new fiction book is at $8.99, and it's a great way to buy a Kindle book. And we're doing Audible as well for that. Now, as well as Rose Diary, we have Audible. So you want to get Kindle set up. So that's first thing. And then we go and we help you walk through getting set up on Ingram Spark. And Ingram Spark is the #1 worldwide distributor of print books. So we do our ebooks through KDP, typically speaking, although we sometimes also set it up so that Amazon can print if they want. But we specifically make our clients spend $49 and set up their one-time fee, set up their Ingram Spark account. And Ingram Spark, then anybody anywhere in the world wants to distribute goes through them. So eventually it propagates pretty quickly over the course of again, it's magic. I'm smarter than people that are much smarter than I am who work for me knows how this works better than I. But Books A Million picks it up. Indie Book Bound picks it up. Barnes and Noble picks it up. Before you know it, you're everywhere. They can print it. It's not going to be in the Barnes and Noble store necessarily, probably not, unless they see a mad rush for it. Then they're going to buy some. But if I like to buy through Amazon my books, then I can find it. If I like to buy through Barnes and Noble, I can find it. Books A Million, I can find it. Walmart, Rose Diary is a top seller on Walmart. Go figure. It's a young adult book, but they loved it, and we were a top seller at Walmart for quite a while, and on Audible as well. We're a top seller. So, that's once if you know what you're doing, you set those accounts up, and your bank account's there, and the money. The bad news is with Ingram Spark, you don't see money for about 3 months. It's a 90-day wait. They hold the money. We just Accelerate came out a little over a month ago, and we sold close to 500 copies of it in the first month or so, and more are coming because they're selling to groups. But we're not going to see a dime of that until February. But that's okay, because it takes that long. But once you get in the system, then every month they send you money. Basically, put it right in your account. And the same thing with Amazon. They put it straight into your account. So, we haven't sold a lot of Kindle. We sold a lot of print books on that one because it's a workbook. People you want to write in the book. So, yeah, we do all that for you and make your book cover and get your ISBN number, which you have to get, and your barcode that matches your ISBN. All that stuff has to be done. It's not trivial. It's a lot of work.
No, you guys have the whole package ready to go.
We have a package. I think it's just under $1,800. It's $1,799 on ghostwritersnetwork.com, and that includes everything that I just said, except proofreading. That's extra. If you want proofreading, we charge by the word for proofreading, and if you're working with us, we give you a really good rate on that. But yeah, so if you need proofreading out the door with a 30,000 word book, you're probably looking at I don't know, about $2,400 something, and another 500 or so to proofread it. So 400 or 500. So yeah, you're all set. You proofread. You have everything you need, and all the money you make as you make it goes to you. And then you can order from Ingram Spark and get better deals on the book. So if you want to, they're the cheapest way to buy your book. They print it and have author prices. So if the book is $20 on the shelf, you could buy one for maybe 12, but if you buy a number of them, it brings the book down to $6 or $7 a book. So this is shipping's the problem. So if you buy 20 or 30 books, you're probably looking at $7, maybe 8, 7, 8, somewhere in there to buy a book. And then you can buy a whole bunch of them and go out and sell them. So
Does any of your packages include marketing?
yes, well, not we do marketing. That's a separate thing. We do have a package that includes our next package up includes a website, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but I think it also includes your business cards or something, some printing and your proofreading and all that. So it includes a little bit of everything. It's the next package up. But yeah, we'll make it like we have a lot of authors we make websites for. We just did a Coach Bob Walsh. He was the coach at Rhode Island College, and they went from no wins to like 8 championships in 9 years. And he wrote a great book on leadership. It's about 60,000 word book. It's a really cool book. We did his book cover. We published the book for him. He wrote it. We just proofread it, published it, and then made him a website as well. And it's all matched. So like his book cover and his website, you're not going to miss it. It's very distinct, and it's a gorgeous book cover. Absolutely beautiful.
Well, and also, I mean, you can do this whole package, but also if people want to enhance the possibility of selling something, I think they have to do their own marketing as well. They have to pay and push ads and Facebook ads and Instagram ads. You got to put on your own as well if you want to make sales. I don't think sales just happen naturally as
Here's
much
some
as when you
newsflash.
push.
If you were one of the lucky one in a haystack needle that gets published traditionally, they take 70% of your royalties at least, and then they ask you to market yourself. You'll be surprised. You're out looking for your own book signings. You're out looking, yeah. They do not as much as you would think. Granted, you have a lot of clout behind you, and it can happen where they can really push you. But a lot of people go traditional publishing and make less money than they would have had they done it on their own. And you have to hustle. Yeah, I mean, we have 2 people that in our staff that make book trailers, and they're really cool. We made 2 very different ones for Accelerate. One where Ziz and I. Ziz is a football player from the '90s who played for the Chiefs, and he's a really terrific guy, good-looking man. And so he and I are talking, and we're like talking about the book. We're really excited. And then we have one that's just music and video. So the 2 kind of an A/B thing, and both of them have really sold a lot of books. You'd be surprised. We put that out there one Friday. We just swamped Facebook with it, and we sold like 100 copies of the book that afternoon.
Yeah,
yeah. But you got to, and it costs very little. We put one of those trailers to that. I think it's like $200 or something, $250 to put one of those together. A minute and a half. And man, Instagram, you put them everywhere, and you'd be surprised. People love that stuff. Some good music and cool images and picture of the book cover, and maybe you saying something about the book. You could do that on your phone. You can send that to us, or Zoom or whatever, and put it together. So,
but I think there's also
this where we can do interviews and put them out on Facebook
right
about your book. So there's a million ways we can help you to market. And once things are normal again, more book signings, but you can do virtual book signings. So that's a cool way too.
And there's also like a natural organic advertising. I think if Amazon has your books, they want to advertise and feature your books, right? Let's say your book is about relationships, right? And then they're going to feature any book in relationships. They're also going to feature yours, right? Like saying
it could be
books like this
smart
one.
thing. This is another thing that Cindy, our typesetter, helps a great deal with, is picking the right keywords and the right things to be involved in. And helping you, because then you can get your ranking listed better. If you, like, let's say you're doing a book on psychology, maybe you have a specific niche, like dog psychology or something. Like if you're in a specific niche, you jump up a lot quicker if you know the right things to put in there. And she's really great at that.
Right, and Amazon does that for you.
No, you do that, but you have to have somebody who knows how to do it, and knows what the right buttons to hit, man. You
guys have a very extensive package. I haven't seen people or companies that do all the things that you do for this specific thing.
Yeah, we're
cover a lot.
There's not a whole lot of us doing this. There's a few people that do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
and there's people who do it badly. I have a lady who came to me, we're trying to rescue. I don't know how to help her. but they didn't set her up on Ingram Spark, and she's trying to sell the books from her garage. I mean, they're getting her a good price on the book. I think they're printing it in China, which is great because she's getting her little kids book. It's a small book, but it's a colored book, and she's getting it colored images, and she's getting it for like $3 from China and selling it for 10. But she has to ship it from her house. She's like shipping one at a time. That's a nightmare. So the publishing company didn't set her up quite right. We can't figure out why they did what they did, and that was before us. So now we're going to do her next book, but yeah, there's a lot of people who don't know what they're doing, unfortunately, but there are people who are very good. I think book covers is the biggest issue for me. I would put our book covers against anybody's. They're absolutely stunning, and we're actually trying to get them. I know another whole thing on it. We're revamping Ghostwriters a little bit in the next couple of weeks. Well, we have a Christmas break. We're doing some housekeeping and changing some images on our own websites, but a new homepage is coming, and all of our book covers are going to get listed to show you some of them. They're really beautiful. They really are.
What is the difference between percentage of sales of hardcover books versus downloads? What sells more?
It depends on the kind of book. We don't do hardcover anymore. Like we do soft cover, but you're talking print as opposed to Kindle. Um, Depends on the book. So Accelerate's a good example. Accelerate is a playbook. It's Accelerate, a playbook for young dreamers, scholars, artists, and athletes. And at the end of every chapter, there are exercises and there are questions that we want them to answer. And there's blank pages for them to make drawings of the things we've asked them to do and to write notes. That book is selling in print. We did put a download on our website on accelerateplaybook.com where you could go ahead and print out the questions from the book and then buy the Kindle and play along, if you will. And that was smart, I think. So with that, we're pushing the idea that if people don't want to spend $22.87 for the book, but they want to spend $9.99 and buy the Kindle, they can download the question. But if you have a fiction book, I'll tell you what's selling better than anything is Audible.
Yeah.
You can get the book on tape. People love that. Fiction books, for whatever reason, people are listening to them more than they're reading, which I kind of find sad a little bit. I want them to read, but the print books tend to do better for people who love a book in their hand. The Kindle, I think, is starting to mutate to where more people are actually buying the Audible, even though it costs more than the Kindle. Although Kindle, it depends on the book. Leadership books, a lot of people buy leadership books in print because they're not usually too expensive. You might go like $14.99 as opposed to $8.99. And then you got that book, you can make notes in it. You can tear it up and you can, so those kinds of things I think tend to be print more. But fiction is becoming very, very Audible heavy, I would say.
I didn't tell you, but I'm a person that studies like I listen books. I get audiobooks actually. I learn by listening. So
Yeah.
I listen like around for the last 10 years, at least 2 to 4 full books a week.
Wow, cool. Good for
So
you.
around 150 books a year consistently, but I don't do like 150 books. I do like 10 books 15 times each, for example. I just listen to them over and over and over while I'm doing everything else. You guys don't work with audiobooks?
I actually have a guy right now that's starting to do our Audible. We have a couple people we can suggest, but we are getting into that. It's very slowly, but we are getting into
You
it.
should.
Yeah, Warm Bodies, Morgan City 78 will be an Audible book by probably February. And he's recording it right now as an actor. There was a student of mine actually who is stuck in Manhattan without being able to work very much because, they're just starting to do some filming. He was on SNL. He's been on Burn Notice. He's been on Mrs. Maisel. He's been on everything. But a lot of that shooting around Manhattan hasn't been happening because of COVID. So we put him into the Audible concept, and he's been doing a beautiful job. So we have that. We have a young lady that we recommend, but she's very high end and not cheap, but worth it if you're going to do something. If you're going somewhere with, I've got a resource that's fantastic, but for the female voice. But, like I said, not she's expensive and very very worth every bit of it. So.
All right, I'm going to share now. I wish I could stay talking with you, but we're going to start wrapping it up. I'm going to share your information here. It's been very interesting here.
I have talked way too much.
That's what I wanted. So if you guys want to contact Lil directly, and I think you won't have these kind of opportunities to meet people like this with these kind of packages, willing to help you through the whole thing, walk you through, help help you build a story, whether it's science fiction or personal stories, novels, anything you wish that you have inside to bring to the surface. Lil is the person to help you. If you have any questions, here's her email, lil@longbarcreatives.com. And then you can check out her website, ghostwritersnetwork.com, longbarcreatives.com. And if you wish to get into this co-writing situation where maybe you don't have enough material, you think, you can co-write with somebody, be part of a bigger network of writers for one book. Just go to wowbookseries.com. What do they do there? They have to fill out an application? How does it work?
Yes, there are 3 levels, and I can, if there's a thing later, I can put it in the chat. But the lowest level is basically just being in the book and coming to our summit, and then you get 5 free books, and you write that includes your editing and everything, and that's actually listed at $19.97. But there's a coupon code that we're using to let people know. So it's wowexpert.com, wow expert rather. I'm sorry. So if you go to apply, you'll fill out I want to do that. You click apply. I just want to be in the book. And then when you get there, it'll ask you, do you have a code? The code is wow expert. That will take that from $19.97 to $9.97. And then the next level's up. The one that's, I think it's $49.97 is actually $19.97. That includes being on the website directory and a bunch of other things. And that's wow author. And that's the code for that. So you would put in, when it asks you to pay, you would actually put wow author in, and that will be $19.97. And like I said, that includes being speaking at our summit and being on our website and all these other things. It's wonderful. And then the big package, the final one is wow speaker, because that's a speaker package. That is, if you want to be a speaker and you really are serious about it, you want to be in a book and be on stages and have reels, video reels and a website. That package includes all of that. And it's listed at $9.97, but just this year we're doing it for $49.97. And when you go to fill that out, you would put in the code WOW speaker, and you would write that in, and that would drop that down to $49.97. And that, just the website alone, is worth that. So, that your business cards and website typically, especially with a custom logo, that's just those 3 things are more than $5,000 most of the time with us or anybody. So that's a really.
If you guys don't remember anything of this, just email Lil.
Email me, and I'd love for them to email me and even have a 10-minute conversation with me on phone or Zoom, and I'll go over all that, walk them through it, and see if any of it's right for them. If it's not, it's not. But
and if you have intentions of writing a story, let's say you think you want to share something. Look, if you're a human being, you can write a book. Okay, there's always something that you can find, and you have an expert's help to guide you through, to walk you through everything. She just mentioned everything. If you came late, just watch this whole thing again. It's incredibly valuable information on how to get started. Really, watch it again. Contact Lil, and if you haven't watched it through this Facebook group, Who Am I? Just mention it to her. She'll give you a very good discount.
Give you and same for the course. Take the course. It's 8 weeks, and in 8 weeks you can write your own book or get most of it done. And talk to me. I'll give you a really good price on that too. I've got a discount for that. For the that I was actually offering for Cyber Monday for the couple people that signed up during Cyber Monday. But I'll send that offer. So
get your free consultation. Trust me, it's going to be worth it. Yep. At this point, you can't see the whole thing, but when she walks you through and gives you the idea about your story, I think you're going to be all in. Trust me, and it's really affordable. Now, Lil, let's wrap it up, and I'm going to give you the mic. So just give me a last thought about people that want to get started in this and are hesitating and what they should write about, if they're valuable enough to share. Give me your last thought before we wrap it up right now.
Get a coach, take a course, start to write. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to put your words on paper or to get somebody to help you put your words on paper. If you talk to me about the course, if you're on tonight and you want to take that 8-week course, it's $597 for you guys. It's going to be $997, but for everybody else. But I'll offer it to you for less than $600. It's like $75 a week. So that's a great way to get started, to take that course, and you'll be with a group of people and working together. Work as a team. Write a chapter for a compilation book. Write articles. Write blogs. Just write, and don't be afraid. Don't think you're not capable or you're too stupid or you don't know enough or you're not an expert. Of course you are. if you're over a certain age or any, even if you're a kid, there's certain things that I had a 12-year-old student who wrote plays, and I think she was as good as I am. So everybody has something to say. Okay. And just figure out how you want to say it, and we'll help you say it the right way, or we'll help you say it the way you want to say it, but a little.
Thank you very much, Leila. It has been a full honor and an inspiration to talk to you. Inspirational. It's like I just had a self-development course. You're an inspiration because of many, many factors, not only a writer or ghostwriter, but you know a lot about a lot of things.
I do.
So
I'm old.
I recommend you need a mentor, a writer, blogger. Contact Lil. Thank you very much, Lil, for having, and I hope we can do it again soon. The
Absolutely.
second part
I love
coming.
I love all your stuff on the by the way too. Your wonderful ideas and wonderful thoughts, and you're so helpful to the people in your group, and I
Thank
appreciate
you very much. And thanks to you, we're getting a level ahead now.
it.
Thank you very much.
Stay
And I'll
warm
talk
up
to you
there.
soon.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, guys.